He went undercover to see how his employees really lived, but when he discovered one worker was sacrificing half his paycheck for someone else, he knew he had to step in. Ethan Caldwell, Billionaire CEO of Caldwell Industries, adjusted his name tag. Tonight, he wasn't the boss. He was just Ethan the trainee. For months he had heard rumors. Some employees struggling, some managers mistreating workers, but he wanted to see the truth for himself. So, he went undercover. Wearing a simple uniform and an old pair of boots, he walked into one of his company's warehouse facilities, ready to spend a full shift as a regular employee. At first, everything seemed normal. Hard work, long hours, the usual workplace complaints. But then, he met Miguel. Miguel was one of the hardest workers in the building, lifting heavy boxes, never complaining, always covering extra shifts. Ethan noticed that Miguel barely ate during his break. Instead of buying a full meal, he only had a small sandwich and water. Curious, Ethan sat beside him. "Hey, man, you always eat this light?" Miguel chuckled, shaking his head. "Nah, just saving money." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "For something special?" Miguel hesitated before nodding. "Yeah, my family." Ethan leaned in. "Your family?" Miguel smiled softly. "Half my paycheck goes back home. My parents, my little brother, they rely on me." Ethan's stomach tightened. This man was working himself to the bone, not for luxury, not for himself, but for his family. And worst of all, no one at the company even knew. Ethan clenched his jaw. That was about to change. And when Miguel walked into work the next day, everything would be different. The next day. Miguel walked into work like any other day, completely unaware that his life was about to change. As he clocked in, something felt different. His co-workers were whispering, stealing glances at him. Then, over the intercom, a voice echoed through the warehouse. "Miguel Hernandez, please report to the main office immediately." Confused, Miguel wiped his hands on his uniform and made his way to the office. Had he done something wrong? Was he in trouble? When he stepped inside, his breath caught. Sitting behind the desk, dressed in a sharp suit, no longer in disguise, was Ethan Caldwell, the CEO. Miguel's heart pounded. He had only seen Ethan in company newsletters and news articles. Why was he here? Ethan smiled. "Miguel, take a seat." Miguel hesitated before lowering himself into the chair, his hands clasped tightly. "Sir, did I do something wrong?" Ethan chuckled. "Not at all. In fact, you did something incredible." Miguel frowned. "I don't understand." Ethan leaned forward. "Yesterday I worked beside you. You didn't know who I was, but I saw everything." Miguel swallowed hard. "Sir, I was just doing my job." Ethan nodded. "And sending half of your paycheck home. That's just part of your job too." Miguel's face flushed. They need it more than I do." Ethan exhaled slowly. "You're a better man than most, Miguel. And that kind of loyalty, that kind of sacrifice, it deserves to be rewarded." He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a thick envelope. He slid it across the desk. "Open it." Miguel hesitated before carefully pulling back the flap. His eyes widened as he saw a check with his name on it for $50,000. His hands shook. "Sir, this must be a mistake." Ethan shook his head. "It's not. That's a bonus for being the kind of employee every company dreams of. And it doesn't stop there." Miguel looked up, his throat tight. "There's more?" Ethan smiled. "You're getting a promotion. Effective immediately, you're the new warehouse supervisor. Higher salary, better benefits. You'll be able to take care of your family and yourself." Miguel couldn't breathe. Tears welled in his eyes. "Sir, I don't know what to say." Ethan stood, reaching out his hand. "Say you'll keep being the man your family is proud of." Miguel's voice cracked as he shook Ethan's hand. "I promise." And as he walked out of that office, his entire world had changed. Because kindness doesn't go unnoticed. And sometimes, doing the right thing leads to rewards you never saw coming. 1 month later, Miguel stood in the middle of the warehouse, but this time not as a regular worker. Now, he was the supervisor. Employees who once worked beside him now looked up to him, and instead of barely scraping by, he had enough to support his family and even start saving for their future. But the biggest surprise? Ethan Caldwell hadn't stopped there. One afternoon, as Miguel finished reviewing shift schedules, his phone buzzed. It was a call from his mother. "Mijo," she said, her voice trembling. Did you do something?" Miguel frowned. "What do you mean, Mama?" "The house. It's paid off. Completely. We don't owe anything anymore." Miguel's heart stopped. "What?" He rushed into the main office, nearly out of breath. Ethan Caldwell was there, going through paperwork. He looked up and smirked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Miguel exhaled sharply. "Sir, my mother just called me. She said our house was paid off." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Interesting. I wonder how that happened." Miguel blinked. "Sir, you didn't—" Ethan shrugged. "Let's just say I believe in investing in the people who make this company great." Miguel's eyes welled with tears. He covered his mouth, shaking his head in disbelief. "I don't know how to thank you." Ethan smiled. "You already did, Miguel. The day you put your family before yourself. I'm just making sure you get back what you've given." Miguel swallowed hard, then straightened. "One day, I'll pay this kindness forward." Ethan's smirk widened. "That's all I ask." And as Miguel walked out of that office, he realized something. Hard work and sacrifice never go unnoticed. And sometimes, life rewards you in ways you never expected. 1 year later, Miguel stood on stage, microphone in hand, looking out at a packed conference hall. Hundreds of employees, business leaders, and even journalists were in attendance. Behind him, a massive banner displayed the words, "The Caldwell Foundation, supporting workers and their families." This wasn't just another company event. This was a movement. And Miguel? He was at the center of it. He took a deep breath, then began. "A year ago, I was just another warehouse worker. I lifted boxes, worked long hours, and sent half my paycheck home to my family because they needed it more than I did." The room fell silent. I never expected anyone to notice. I never expected anything in return. But someone did notice. And because of that, my life changed forever. Miguel turned toward the man sitting in the front row, Ethan Caldwell, the CEO who had gone undercover and changed his life. Ethan gave him an approving nod. Miguel smiled. "Today, I'm proud to announce the launch of the Caldwell Foundation, a program dedicated to supporting hard-working employees and their families." The screen behind him lit up with the foundation's mission statement: emergency financial aid for struggling workers, scholarships for employees' children, housing assistance for families in need. Gasps and murmurs spread through the audience. This wasn't just a small initiative. This was life-changing. Miguel continued. "No worker should have to choose between survival and success, and today, thanks to Mr. Caldwell's vision, we're making sure no one is left behind." The crowd erupted in applause. Miguel glanced at Ethan, who was clapping proudly, and in that moment, he realized he wasn't just an employee anymore. He was part of something bigger. Because when one act of kindness changes a life, that life has the power to change thousands more. 5 years later, Miguel stood at the entrance of a brand new building, a state-of-the-art facility with a massive sign above the glass doors. The Hernandez-Caldwell Center for Opportunity. This wasn't just another company expansion. This was a revolution, a place where struggling workers and their families could get career training, financial assistance, and life-changing opportunities. And today, They were opening the doors to thousands. Inside, cameras flashed as Miguel and Ethan Caldwell stood side by side, preparing to cut the ceremonial ribbon. Ethan smirked. "You know, 5 years ago, you nearly passed out in my office when I gave you that first bonus." Miguel chuckled. "I still can't believe any of this is real." Ethan patted his shoulder. "Believe it. You built this." Miguel turned toward the crowd, employees, families, and even executives from other major corporations who wanted to learn how they could do the same in their companies. He took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. 5 years ago, I was just a warehouse worker. I worked hard, sent money home, and never expected anything in return. But someone saw me. Someone gave me a chance." He looked at Ethan. "And today, because of that chance, we're giving thousands of workers the same opportunity I was given." The screen behind him lit up with the impact of the program so far. Over 10,000 families helped. Hundreds of workers promoted through leadership training. Millions invested into scholarships for employees' children. The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering. Miguel turned to Ethan, his voice steady. "Thank you for believing in me." Ethan smirked. "Miguel, you're not just my best employee anymore." Miguel raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" Ethan grinned. "You're my business partner." Gasps spread through the crowd. Miguel's eyes widened. "Sir, I don't know what to say." Ethan chuckled. "Say yes." Miguel nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "Yes." As the ribbon was cut and the center officially opened, Miguel realized something. He had once sent half his paycheck home, believing success wasn't meant for people like him. And now, he wasn't just working for a company, he was helping to lead it. Because when kindness opens a door, it doesn't just change one life, it changes the world.